Welcome to Innovation in Gaming. In this episode, we will explore the competitive world of esports. In 2019, over 454 million people watched esports. That number could double in 2020 given the upheaval in classic sports arenas. This emerging billion-dollar industry has regularly brought single tournament viewership of 100 million people. That's more than the Super Bowl and other major sporting events which are notably in decline. There's no doubt that esports are the future. But how did we get here? Let's take a look at the history of esports, which arguably started with the first digital video game, Space War. A showdown game between two rocket-style ships that could rotate, thrust, and fire torpedoes at each other. On a cool October day in 1972, the AI lab at Stanford University hosted the world's first known video game tournament and featured Space Wars. The tournament's winner, Bruce Baumgard, received a year-long subscription to Rolling Stone magazine, as well as the coveted title Intergalactic Space War Champion of 1972. Video game tournaments began springing up all across the country with a focus on hit arcade games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, and Star Wars. An organization called Twin Galaxies, founded by Walter Day, handled the official record keeping. They also supplied the information that was used for the Guinness Book of World Records.
Great, I'm standing right here with
Nick.
And where are you from, Nick?
Las Vegas for the past 20 years.
20 years in Vegas. So do you play video games?
Yeah, mostly first-person shooters and stuff.
What are you playing right now?
Overwatch for the longest time. It's because you can play with up to 6 people on a team, so it's great for like me and my friends to play that. We have nightly rituals where like the first victory, you take a shot, and then you get back to gaming, and so it's pretty fun.
I remember Tecmo Bowl, I believe it was. There was a play to Peyton, that was outlawed because you couldn't stop it. There was a play to Jerry Rice in 84, I think, or 87 that you couldn't, no, go back. You can't run that play because it physically was impossible to stop it.
Are you a fan of esports at all, or have you watched any online?
Like, I would participate if I was any good. I'm mediocre at best. Yeah, getting intimidating for sure when they, when I think of esports, I think intimidating probably, because those are all the people that are probably kicking my ass online. Oh, they're probably the ones that actually show up to those things. So that's always what I think of esports.
Do you watch any esports?
I feel like I'm too old to understand the appeal of it, but like, I'm just starting to learn about like, oh, it is cool to watch people play video games. So I think I'm like slowly getting into it, but I think there's like a steep learning curve for like old guys like myself where it's like, I don't know, like you gotta jump through the barriers of like, what am I watching this for? Oh yeah, it's for the personalities. It's like seeing the competitiveness of it. So like I'm getting there, I'm slowly getting there.
As with anything, it had its very humble beginnings. You know, I certainly remember like the early days of esports, you know, where, you know, it's like a few dozen people and you have to lug your own computer there. You know, really for me, the first moment where I thought that maybe esports could be a thing was in 1995. Microsoft ran a Doom tournament. As with a lot of those tournaments back then, they used to run way overtime. And I don't know, it was probably 1 a.m. in the morning. The finals was still going on. You know, there was still hundreds of people watching, you know, at the end. And I ended up winning. That was the first kind of big kind of tournament that I won. Tension in the air. My opponent, you know, ended up slamming the keyboard and kicking his chair over because he was so upset that he lost. And so, you know, it kind of had the spectacle of what sports kind of felt like. I was the world champion of games like Doom and Quake 2 and Quake 3. And I'm also well known for having won John Carmack's Ferrari in a Quake tournament in 1997. It's been amazing to watch it grow and evolve over these years.
So what esports provides that's so exciting is that that sports frame that comes to it suddenly brings with it a framework where you can have coaches or other mentors in the game itself, around the game, in that milieu, who speak with authority, have major respect and props, but who can say things like, "Hey, you're going to have to work on your self-regulation, because if you tilt every time something goes wrong and end up, venting frustration at your teammates, it actually not only blows your gameplay up, it blows the team up." And so there's this sort of really nice way in which you can get some of that mentoring into the game spaces. And esports allows you to do that.
We've seen a huge movement within the educational space, for example, esports high school leagues, the collegiate teams. All of these guys are understanding the validity of esports as a profession. So they are creating these courses, they are getting private investments to build out these esports centers on campus, so that their students can start learning about the business, the students can start forming their own teams.
I look at esports as the future of like sports entertainment consumption. You could play tennis pretty competitively up to a longer age. And then even if you're not a competitive player, it's a lifelong sport like golf that you can continue to play as you age. And if you really look at esports and gaming, if you grow up with it, you understand it, you play it, and that's something that I feel like will keep that trend going as you age. You're starting to see some of that now, where the millennials are starting to hit their 40 plus now, right? And they're still gaming.
Yeah, definitely the past couple of years have been trying to submerge myself in as much like esports content as possible, because it's really cool seeing the world I grew up in now, like in this like mainstream light that has like money behind it, where like before, like doing a Super Smash Bros tournament was like a thing you would do like with like your local community for like, there probably wasn't even prize, pools, and some of them there were, but like, it was like really little.
The great video game crash of the early 1980s didn't keep esports down for long. The emergence of the Nintendo Entertainment System spawned a whole new generation who welcomed competitive gaming into their homes. Conventions and traveling tournaments based on the NES console began to pop up around the United States, Europe, and Japan. Consoles wouldn't have all the glory, however, and by the mid-90s, LAN parties and tournaments were a popular pastime for PC enthusiasts. The influx of inexpensive PC components created an entire industry around building your own custom gaming computer. These custom PCs gave players an edge in games like Unreal Tournament, Doom 2, and Jedi Knight: Dark Forces 2. The dawn of the World Wide Web also ushered in the capability to play competitively against people all over the world. For the first time, you could find a fellow player at any time without having to haul your computer to a LAN party. Streaming services such as Twitch have led to easier access for millions of viewers who watch daily competitions, tournaments, and streams about any and all topics. Speaking of Twitch, Richard Blevins, better known by his online alias Ninja, is an American video game streamer and professional gamer. He's currently the #1 Twitch streamer at the time of this production. With over 16 million followers, Blevins was the first professional esports player to be featured on the cover of ESPN magazine. Esports based on actual sports are also offering enormous money prizes. This year, NBA 2K ranks in the top 10 for prize pool payout games. The massively popular F1 eSports series is one of the most competitive racing esports. They're offering payouts of $750,000 for their 4th season. Traditional sports of all types are sure to follow in the digital realm.
Are you a fan of esports?
I think that they're not going away. I'm not particular to them. I'm not big on, competitive sports with that, but I think it's here to stay.
Have you guys had any experience, or are you fans of esports at all?
I know Ninja. He's a esports guy, I'm pretty sure. I know he's sponsored by Red Bull. That's pretty cool.
Are you at that level where you want to do competitive Pokemon Go?
Oh, I dabble. What do you think?
Competitive? I don't know. I'd like people to give me their phones and I'll go take walks for them and get paid to do that. I'd like to do that.
Do you ever battle each other?
No.
Not really. We have a third phone.
Yeah.
We've added that.
So my experience with, and I only have limited, but with WSOP, I win every time because you're playing against trolls, okay?
World Series of Poker, so it's like online poker.
And so all you have to do is outsmart them, and you win every time. They usually lose, and that's the crazy thing. Why do they lose like all the time? I'm not even good.
Well, you must be because you know you can.
No, I'm not. That's the thing is I'm not.
Do you see esports becoming more mainstream in the future?
Oh yeah, for sure. People not only are playing, they take the time to watch how other people's play, and I think it just opens up the next level of coolness and nerdiness being acceptable, or it's not going to be nerdy anymore.
We work with eSports at the collegiate level, where we support them through our coaching programs, and we also work with some competitive teams. We work with the teams at like the team level to really help them drive their performance, to learn to trust each other, to communicate better, to make sure that they can get out of the wrong headspace if things aren't going their way. And that kind of work helps that split-second decision making. It helps that teamwork, that trust really shine, and help the leaders of those teams really be able to make those decisions knowing that their team has their back. So our work with esports organizations is really exciting because you see it in real time. It's like they did it, they communicated well, you saw them come back from the lane loss, and it's really cool.
I actually worked on the Overwatch League for a brief period of time when I was at Twitch. And it's pretty fascinating, I think, to see the skills and the quality of players in the esports arena and the passion and excitement that fans have for watching it. You know, it'll be interesting to see how the esports industry continues to evolve. You know, I'm surprised they're not more, well, now with kind of bars and clubs being shut down, I'm surprised they're previous to that weren't more like esports bars out there, but I think that's going to be a pretty significant trend.
You know, I see esports as really being that entertainment property, you know, watching people at the top of their game, you know, play games competitively. There's things around speed runs and, you know, this other kind of just like highly competitive, highly honed entertainment, you know, based gaming that I just love.
We had a game day, and I was talking to one of the principals of the high school, and she saw what was going on, and she you know, kept on saying, I had no idea. But then she saw one of her students and, you know, playing and communicating and talking in a League of Legends match, and it almost brought her to tears because she said to me, I pass that kid every day. His eyes never meet mine. He's always looking at the ground. He has no friends. These kids in high school are disenfranchised. We think the esports teams in high schools and colleges is you know, just in the, you know, first or second inning of real growth.
Chess is invented, you have your rules. It's not an esport, it's a game, and it has extreme recognition in the field for the best chess players in the world. And now you basically have esports, which are made up of games made by teams that have a very high stakes result for balance and netcode and all of these things. And then you have people that dedicate their lives to learning these games. And my God, for every convention I've gone to, the esports stage was the biggest thing on the show floor by far.
Players make the game. You need to have buy-in from like the community to have a successful esport. They need to be engaged, they need to be challenged, and they need to be heard. So like, what does esports offer a player? It offers them like a chance to flex their creative muscles and their competitive muscles, gives them a voice, gives them a place on center stage. It allows them to create a name for themselves and a legacy in a sport with a gaming title they care a lot about. I think that the future of esports is going to be one where you're going to see gaming and esports become an integral part of like youth culture. I think you'll see academic institutions will begin to realize the importance of offering students access to tools and equipment that would allow them to learn about games and opportunities in gaming and beyond.
It's clear that Twitch helped make esports successful, but at the same time, esports helped make Twitch successful. I think the really unique part of Twitch, at least in the early days, that it brought to the table was the ability to essentially interact with some of your favorite players that you might have been following on a team, and not just interact with them, but basically see the game through their eyes. Right? I mean, how often do you get to watch LeBron James practice?
We're at the dawn of the mass acceptance of athletes in the framework of a digital sport. There's no doubt that as we evolve as a species, our desire to prove that we're the quickest, the smartest, or the fastest will always bring out our competitive nature. Whether in a physical realm with traditional sports or within the digital world of esports, games and competition will remain at the forefront of our culture. Thank you for joining us for this look into the emerging world of competitive esports.